Um, my grandmother, who is now in her 80s, late 80s, her name is Eva Valenzuela Perez, and she was born in Ajo, Arizona, but she was raised in Caborca, Sonora, Mexico. Yeah? Awesome. Caborca, Mexico. Caborca? Oh, nice. We're all family. When she was 50 years old and she was getting ready to send the last of her 9 children off into adulthood and into college, she was handed me. I was 5 years old, and my mother decided that it would be best that I be removed from my house because of difficulties I was having with my father. And my grandma was given this new kid. And for the next 6 years, she was my primary caretaker. She was my mom. And I loved her as my mom, and she did everything that a mom should do, including, this is one of my favorite memories, is she bought me my first and actually only pair of parachute pants in 1985. Oh man, I wanted to wear them every day. They were gray, but if you open them up, they're like this balloon of black fabric, you know? And I love fabric. And so yeah, that was her. As a kid, I used to love to sketch and doodle. That's all I did. I used to have to take the bus for about an hour each day to school, and I would doodle. I would doodle in class sometimes. It's just been my lifesaver. As a matter of fact, I'll be in a meeting and I'll be doodling because it helps me concentrate. Doodlers, yeah. So my grandma had this obscene amount of copy paper in a closet in the house, and I used to ask her for paper so I could doodle. And I mean, she would always give me 10, 12, 15 sheets of paper, and it would last me a couple of days. One day, I go up and I go, "Abuelita, ¿me das más papel? Can I have some more paper?" And she goes, "Yes." And so we walk, and I follow her to the closet, and she's grabbing the paper, and then she pauses before she hands me the paper, and she says, "Te lo voy a dar, I'm going to give it to you, but I don't want you to draw any more dolls." And for a second, I'm like, my God, I was so terrified. All this shame came over me because I kind of knew I wasn't supposed to be drawing dolls, because there was this novela, and that's when I learned all these things. Fashion designer, it was called El Color de la Dama de Rosa, and there was this very flamboyant caricature of a character who was a fashion designer, and everybody made fun of him. And there was one time actually I was on the bus, and they called me the name of the character, and I'm like, that's when I knew maybe I need to start hiding some things. But for me, this cemented it. I wasn't supposed to draw dolls anymore, dresses and whatnot. Years go on, and actually I've done a lot of garment design for plays and drag queens and whatnot. And Halloween is my favorite time. I'm already working on this year's costume. My grandma started to lose her sight. She had lost complete sight in one eye early on, but in the last few years, she started losing the eyesight in her other eye. So it became a family tradition that we all go to her room in her house, and we all sit around, different groups of us, and we tell stories. We tell her stories, about our jobs and relationships and problems and whatnot. And then she tells us the stories about relationships and problems of characters from the telenovelas. She still watches them. She can't really see it, but she hears it. She has to all the time. But on one particular night, it was myself, my mom, and my grandma, and we were talking. And my mom has really tried to be this really supportive mom to her queer gay son. But she didn't warn me that she was going to do this. But she's sitting there, and she goes, "Mama, did you," in Spanish, but I'll translate. "Did you know that Oscar has been thinking about becoming a dad? He really wants to be a dad." And I'm like, "Oh my God, we're going to talk about being gay, we're just going to ask questions, and how is it going?" Okay, and so I'm a filmmaker, and so things like this happen in my head, but all of a sudden everything stopped. And then there's all these saints on her wall, and there's these candles, and they flicker shadows. And I feel like they're looking at me, right? So I'm like, oh my God, they're looking at me. But, and I can smell the wax of the candle. It's like right here. I can smell it right now if I think about it. But my grandma, without hesitating, like for 1 second, without pausing, she says, "Ay, pues aquí hagan lo que hizo Ricky Martin." He should just do what Ricky Martin does, right? And Ricky Martin is probably the most visible Latino gay man, you know, across the world, and especially in Latino America. It was like just an amazing healing moment for me because she had transitioned and she had evolved. And, you know, we had created a new tradition in our family. And there happens to be a lot of queer people in my family, and you know, it's not unusual to take these big family pictures with same-sex couples holding hands and whatnot. But that has become a new tradition in our family, and I'm very glad. And then also, as I thought about it, I started to think just how proud I was to be, you know, a media artist who tells stories, and how important it is, you know, to tell the truth. And, you know, it just really hit home for me that it really impacts people, and, you know, we have a great privilege to impact culture and whatnot. So that's my story about traditions in my family. Thank you very much.